guys, I'm Steph. Thank you so much for checking out my channel today. I am so excited to be bringing you this video. A while back, I did a battle of the nude eyeliners from the Drugstore. I'll link that video down below in case you're interested. And I really love just testing out a bunch of different products and kind of taking notes when I wore them, as geeky as that sounds, and seeing which one I thought was the best. So I wanted to do that for pressed powders. I know it's a bit late, we are near the end of the summer, but I actually started doing this at the end of last summer and the beginning of this summer to kind of just see how a bunch of different powders worked with a bunch of different foundations. Before we get into it, just so you know, I have oily prone skin, also acne prone skin, but I don't think that's as important as the oily part. So if you're looking for a pressed powder from the drugstore that is going to help with your oils depending on the foundation, then this is the video for you. To let you know what foundations I use to test out these different powders, the first one I picked was the Decay Naked Skin Foundation because for me I felt this just never really set. It's a very liquidy foundation, looked very luminous on my oily skin. So I wanted to see what pressed powders can work best with that. I also test these powders against the Covergirl Vitalist Elixir foundation, again for the same reasons. I just think this is like a very luminescent foundation. And then I wanted to pick a foundation that I found was neither my least favorite nor my favorite, and for that I picked the Rimmel Lasting Finish. I think this is just a satin finish. It doesn't look, it's actually the foundation I'm wearing today, but it doesn't look too luminous, it's not too matte, it's kind of like the perfect balance. And I also wanted to test these powders against my favorite foundation. So from the drugstore, that would be the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation, and more high-end, that would be the Too Faced Peach Perfect Comfort Matte. I find both of these foundations kind of have a demi-matte finish, so they're my favorite. I love how they look on my oily skin, so I wanted to see if these pressed powders would almost make them too mattifying, too cakey. On to the powders I tested out. The first I have since finished, but this was the Rimmel powder. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. It is like a very well-known mattifying pressed powder. The next one I tested out was the Maybelline Fit Me. I tested out the Covergirl Outlast All Day, the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte, and the Essence All About Matte. So all of these pressed powders are from the drugstore and promote themselves as mattifying powders. For the Rimmel foundation, when I wore it with the Covergirl, which again is very luminous foundation, I found that it worked pretty well, but it didn't cover everything. My nose was quite shiny. Again, the Urban Decay, a more luminous foundation, I felt that it braked up. I looked less oily, but it still felt very wet to the skin. For the Rimmel, which is kind of like the average foundation, I thought it did an okay job. By the end of the day, you could see my oils peeking through, but it kind of looked naturally dewy, not so much oily. And for the Physicians Formula, which was one of my favorite foundations, it looked cakey by the end of the day. And for the Too Faced one, it was actually one of the worst I've ever seen that foundation. It just looked cakey. It like completely wiped off at the end of the day. It just felt so oily and slick. So keep in mind, I am wearing these in the height of summer, but the Rimmel Stay Matte, that's what it's called, did not help me stay matte. So for me, this wasn't it. I know a lot of people say it's their holy grail, but for me, this just didn't cut it. Next is the Maybelline Fit Me, and I did not have great results with this. It worked even worse for my oily type foundations compared to the Rimmel one, and it worked okay for my other foundations. So for the Urban Decay one, it was really gross. It just really caked up. It did not look nice on the skin. For the Covergirl, it's kind of a mixed bag. When I was in air conditioning, when it was temperature controlled, it didn't look that bad. Maybe like a bit cakey, but nothing major. But when I was out in the heat, it just caked up on me. It looked so oily. It felt wet to the touch, almost like I had never set it. It just was such a disaster. So I would definitely not pair that one with the foundation that is more luminous. However, when paired with the Rimmel, which is kind of like that neutral foundation, I thought it worked so well. That was almost one of the best I saw the Rimmel perform. And for those two favorite foundations, the Physicians Formula, it just looked so heavy. And same with the Too Faced, it just looked heavy, and especially in areas where I had highlighted, it just looked so cakey. Maybelline Fit Me works best with like a not so dewy foundation, a not so oily foundation. If you can find one of those, then this is a good fit for that. But would definitely not wear on days when I think I'm going to get really oily. And I'm trying to either combat that by wearing a mattifying foundation or combat an oily foundation by using that as a mattifying product. It just doesn't work. The Covergirl Outlast All Day is very middle of the road when it comes to all the foundations I tried it with. For the Urban Decay, I just felt like my foundation actually started to transfer throughout the day when I paired it with the Covergirl. It just kept coming off. It felt like it never set, so that wasn't a good look for it. And that was one of my more luminous foundations. Again, the CoverGirl more luminous one, this was the best I had ever seen it. So it's kind of funny that the CoverGirl powder and the CoverGirl foundation worked best together. For the Rimmel one, I definitely felt like I had to blot a lot when I wore the CoverGirl with it, but I definitely would pair those together again. I thought that it did look overall, and lately that is the combination I have been wearing, and I've been really enjoying it. I feel like maybe it cakes up a little bit, but overall I'm definitely enjoying the finish of those two paired together. The Physicians Formula one, it was kind of interesting because I was getting so much transfer. It felt wet to the touch. It was like not a fun day with that makeup look, but it didn't actually look oily, which was kind of the fun thing. Like, you looked at my face, it looked like maybe demi, like it looked satin, had a nice finish to it, but I would touch my face to something and all the makeup would just like come right off. So that was not a great pairing. And for the Too Faced one, it was like neither a hit nor a miss. It was kind of like middle of the road. Maybe I felt like it made my pores look a bit odd, but all in all, I wouldn't pair them together again. Next, on to the L'Oreal Infallible Matte. This one, again, a little bit higher than the CoverGirl. I did overall have really good results with it. For the Urban Decay, which is like, it was such a hard foundation to get. Like, it felt like it never set. I do not like that naked foundation. It looked the best with the L'Oreal, which is saying a lot because that is like a very luminous finish. At least for me, I felt like it just does not go well with oily skin. And when I paired it with the L'Oreal, I thought that's when it looked the best. And even for the CoverGirl, it looked really good. I definitely say you have, like, I had to put on a lot of powder to kind of combat the oiliness. And I didn't look oily, I looked dewy, which I think there is a subtle difference. And I really loved the way that it looked. I would definitely pair them together again, but I had to use so much powder that I definitely had to like spray to set my face. But it definitely worked out really nicely. For the Rimmel one, I really did not love how they paired. I thought that things did look a little bit cakey. I've tried it out a few times since I like had that initial experience with it. And I do feel like it doesn't look the worst I've ever had, but it definitely isn't my favorite pairing with the Rimmel. With the Physicians Formula one, I felt like I had to touch up through the day, but I think my skin looked so beautiful. It looked dewy and summery and fresh. Definitely not matte, but it definitely had a beautiful appearance to the skin that I really enjoyed. And for the Too Faced one of my favorite foundations, this was the worst I had ever seen it. Definitely not a good pairing. And that leaves us with Essence, the All About Matte Urban Decay. It just broke apart. It was wet to the touch. Like I said, that is such a hard foundation to pair with a powder. But overall, for the other ones, it worked so well. It was interesting with the CoverGirl one. It felt heavy. It didn't look oily, but when I touched my skin or pulled my hand away, you could kind of see oil on my hand, but my face itself didn't look oily. It was a very interesting combination. So if you want the look where you don't look oily, then that was a great pairing. But if you want to actually not feel oily, not the best. For the Rimmel one, that was the best I've ever seen that foundation go. You couldn't even tell I had been wearing makeup the whole day. The Physicians Formula one looked amazing. The Too Faced one looked amazing. It didn't even look powdery. I didn't even have to set my face that day because the Essence and the Too Faced just smelled so well together. So what does this mean? In the end, I would definitely recommend the Essence All About Matte Fix and Compact. My only gripe with this is that it says it's translucent, but it is clearly very white, and it definitely comes off powdery and can leave a bit of a white cast. Even on my fair skin, I do find I really need to buff it in. If you're looking for something that has shades, then I would suggest the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte or the Covergirl Outlast. I really enjoyed both of these. The Covergirl definitely does have more products, so if that interests you, I would pick this one up. But I've enjoyed both of these. I have pretty much hit pan, or I'm working towards pan, all of these products, so I definitely have used them quite a lot. I've gotten a lot of use out of them, and that's where I stand on the pressed powders. If you're interested in what other powders I have in my collection, then make sure you subscribe because my next video is going to be my powder collection. And if you like these types of videos, I'm thinking about doing one on eyebrow pencils next, so let me know in the comments if that would interest you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. And please let me know if you end up picking up any of these powders, if you tried them before, how do they work for you, and what's your favorite. Bye!